3 at that moment.
Yeah.
And as you said, they have no lockdown, nothing they can do against Genji, and he just takes them down.
He's legitimately just doing the hack and slash dream, just wailing away. And, you know, wailing away at it. So are our teams now. We've got Battleground number 4 here for you guys, and it's going to be Galeforce taking us to Battlefield of Eternity. Now, this is actually a really interesting thing, the fact that Galeforce is taking it to us to this map, mainly because the only map that Galeforce lost in both of their series, to both Naventic and to Roll20, was in fact Battlefield of Eternity.
Huh. I'm curious to see what they have planned for this one then. Maybe they learned the lesson from the last 2 losses and they're saying, like, we figured it out now.
That's all you can hope. I'm trying to double check here. I'm fact checking myself to make sure I wasn't crazy. Yeah, they lost. Yeah. Only in games they lost were both on this, or at least to Roll20. I might be wrong on the first one. Now I'm crazy. They lost to Curse Hollow to Naventic. I'm just terrible at my video game job. Sad days. They only lost to Roll20, and it is Roll20 one of their stronger maps, but I would
be confused after the last game as well, so no
problem. after 4 versus 5 being one, hungry stitches.
The first attempt was still the best when we had to fight up at the top and he eats all of them, they kill 2, and then still Genji goes ham and says, all right, I got this, boys.
Yeah, that last game was actually crazy when you think about it. And the comeback here for Galeforce, we talked about after game number 2, about will Galeforce be able to deal with the mentality of struggling there, and they were legitimately as about far back as you can be without losing the actual game and still had the mental strength here. So at this point, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, and it was at some point 15 core points against 1. That's how much what it came down to. So pretty impressive here by Galeforce. But still, in order to make the reverse sweep happen, they need to win 2 more maps, and Battlefield of Eternity is their Battleground choice. So in the draft, we start once again with a ban on Tacita. Had a high priority in the previous games, and so does he this time. Tempo Storm banning him out right away. And Galeforce looking at a ban. So I guess from a European perspective, heroes that really rise on this map as well are Greymane in particular, Vala, simply heroes that can put the pressure onto the Immortal. And let's put it this way, that is still another option. We talked about it. So far to no avail, but Malthael is pretty solid if you get him onto the Immortal.
This is one of the maps where I expect an A to pick him. I maybe not expect, but I thought we would value him even here. You know, just because of, again, the effectiveness that it can have onto the Immortal race itself. It's kind of Lunara-esque on how you approach that. Just because you get a little bit of damage, you dot out, you defend, you dot out, because all it takes is 1 spell and you do a large amount of damage onto the Immortals.
He's actually really solid if you can zone with the other 4 and leave him alone there. He's fantastic.
The 1-4 split dream. We'll see if North America is going to commit into that direction. For now, it's very standard. A new Barak, Greymane are a high priority here for Galeforce probably into this rotation. We've seen them in the past. They like their Li Ming. They like their Genji, so I would expect this is a new Barak Li Ming as the rotation, but maybe not. With the Tacita remove on the side of Tempo, I expect Galeforce to go more MSB draft. Specifically, like I said, with Galeforce and Roll20, they seem to be more Tacita-centric.
How high is Greymane for you guys?
It's lower than this rotation. Almost always it makes it even on a map like BOE. It's not unheard of to see it here, but it just doesn't happen most of the time. I agree with you. I like the pick of seeing a Greymane that high. It seems to be either this rotation for Tempo or the next post-ban phase on the side of Galeforce that we see.
So the Nubarak pretty typical here, and with the Haka getting that side. So one of the biggest goals still being to hit that level 10 ideally before your opponent, then move in from the side lane and get a kill after a drag. That's the dream. If you can get an Immortal after this, you're golden. But now Tempo Storm. I really like their drafting so far, I have to say, and I want to see what they are pulling off now.
I really think I've liked Tempo Storm's drafting. I agree with you there. It's just been the execution of Galeforce in certain, like, we talked about the burden of execution. In the last game, after Mike's performance on the Genji, I'm suddenly going, maybe they can win with these type of compositions. So now I'm like, normally I'd be like, Tempo, keep up the drafting patterns you've had, but I'm also questioning if that can hold up against Galeforce, because, again, minus the core throw of game number 2, this series would be 2-1 in favor of Galeforce right now.
Yeah. The only concern that I have is I think on the last map it was very reset-centric, what we saw.
Okay.
And now that Genji is banned, and in this case Li Ming even taken, the big question for me is, without the resets, can they make that work? Because how many fights did we see where my good old simply killed 3 or 4. I can,
I mean,
on the top of my head, I can at least name 4.
Yeah.
He killed 2 or 3 heroes. So if they don't get the resets, that might become a lot harder for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that came down to specifically the frontliners on the side of Tempo not being in a position to properly pressure Mike. I mean, the entire time, Stitches just flat out can't do anything to a Genji. It's either you gorge him or you just don't deal with him because he has the damage. He'll move past you. He'll ignore you. And that's a part of the problem of maybe Stitches overall. And, you know, Galeforce did a good job there of just going, well, we're going to abuse that. But now if Tempo adjusts and actually pays attention to Mike, because after that last game, you definitely realize you're going to have to if he ever gets on those type of heroes.
The question is, what is he going to play now? Because Genji is already banned out. So
it will be the Dahaka. With the new Barak, essentially we have a lot of role swaps here in NA, which is why that might seem slightly confusing. Mike's new role is essentially the I am the melee / side soaker. Filling that off warrior, Wubby-esque would be the way to describe that here for Mike.
No, that makes sense. But yeah, Vala banned out, I would actually like that a lot. That leaves Greymane, and if you want to go into the new hero, Malthael still for Galeforce as picks when it comes to Immortal Pressure. But so far, Tempo Storm with the Li Ming is at least able to poke from a distance. They have a solid position in those fights with Arthurs. Arthurs would probably not have been the hero that I would have immediately jumped to from a European perspective, but I can totally understand the thought process here.
Yeah.
So I would like them to ban out Vala. That's a lot of Immortal Pressure that Galeforce would be happy to pick. And it's also one of the heroes you can easily complement with double support.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up there. The Vala removal, Q-build Vala so impactful here on BOE. Tempo agrees, they're going to drop it. Now, where do we see GFE move? This is one of the maps where new version of Malfurion I could see you make an argument for, just because he not only provides the health and mana, but also that sustained pokey focus.
Yeah.
Malfurion, modern day Malfurion, the new version of Malfurion, is actually pretty impactful. But again, it's Galeforce. They have a bit of different priority onto the supports. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Morales get busted out in the later part of the draft.
Okay. And so far, there's not really a whole lot on the side of Tempo Storm that should come close to her. Everything that Tempo Storm is currently running shouldn't have a chance of getting close to Morales unless she makes really big positional mistakes. The question, of course, is still what do you pick up towards the end? I
mean, Illidan is very much a viable option for the draft of Tempo Storm. It's not that it's not. It is actually viable even on the side of Galeforce. It's essentially running a double global where you get the Dahaka to match up into the Arthas and kind of go blow for blow, and Illidan's a problem in a different lane. But that's insanely risky and not something I expect GFE to go into.
Okay, there's the Greymane and the Lunara, so double pressure against the Immortal, and they leave the last spot open, so they can still go into the Morales if they want to, and wait for Tempo Storm to pick theirs first so that they know, okay, do we have to deal with anything that can really jump our backline hard?
Man, Tempo, where are they going to move into this rotation? Is it the Illidan or not? I'm torn on if I want to see them pick it up. I don't think I do into that double warrior with a lot of lockdown, a reasonable amount of damage coming out of Lunara to set it up, and Greymane has solid execution to seal the deal. The only way I really like it is if it goes with Ethereal, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
It's also from a damage perspective. When I look at Uther and see him trying to heal out what we have as damage on the side of Galeforce, the poke alone that you get from Greymane, and then you have a Lunara behind that too, I think I really like what Galeforce has drafted so far, and for Tempo Storm I'm a bit worried. I'm currently thinking what saves this.
I agree with you. I am concerned. I'm not losing hope yet. Tyrael, it's got to be it. Okay.
All right.
Amazing that I said only with the Tyrael, I said it's just not going to happen. As always here in North America, I get proven wrong. I think I like that still. I'm not. This can't be Morales now. If this is Morales, I am totally sold on Tempo's draft.
No, definitely, because if that is a Morales, you can even go Judgment if you want to.
Yeah, you just
have Sanctification. You just blow it up immediately.
So now it has to be a very defensive support. Kharazim, debatably, I actually still like the Malf. I think the most. Just have a hard amount of CC to be able to make sure they turn and burst onto the Illidan whenever he dives deep.
You know it's going to be Brightwing.
I mean, I'm not sold on the Brightwing hype train. We've seen a bit of it here and there, but as a response, I hate it. I like it when it's proactive, is like a Genji all-in, but when you're going, oh, I need the CC, I just go, nope, I'd rather a different support.
I have a very personal relationship with Brightwing. I heard it with a passion, so
Okay.
whenever
It's
I
like
see
my
a Brightwing,
Tyrande.
it's a
You're
loss.
just
Exactly.
nice. We'll find out. 3 seconds. Aka, what is it going to be?
I will fight to
Rhaegar.
my last breath.
I like it.
All right, I like the Rhaegar a lot more. That's fine.
As long as it wasn't the Brightwing, it wasn't the Morales. You could make an argument for Karazim, but I don't look at the Rhaegar as a poor setback. It's just as, do we need the race? Do we want it a little bit more clear? And do we want a safer support than maybe that of the Karazim?
Yeah, if they go... I mean, they can really put the pressure onto Lunara right now with what they have. A lot more than before.
Yes.
With the Illidan jumping in, that is helping them so much. And Rhaegar has the cleanse, so that is also pretty solid. If they go for any kind of support that doesn't have a cleanse, you just blow Lunara up.
And one really cool thing that Tempo has available into their composition is essentially running either the Arthas or the Illidan. So early game, you can run the Arthas to match the Dahaka and just be successful power, kind of bully him away. But in the later stages, you transition into the Illidan. You have the Global to be able to mirror him the entire time, and then Arthas can be a problem in different sections of the map, getting side soak on the opposite lane. And it's not a full double global, but it is a way to always make sure Dahaka is perfectly matched in losing, or at least struggling, which is uncommon to experience in, almost every map whenever Dahaka is involved.
I'm curious to see how this one is going to pan out, because Tempo Storm has looked good in the first two, I want to say, but still we've been talking about Braxis quite a bit and how Galeforce should have won it, and they have now picked up quite some momentum. If you are able to win the first map there, you're looking good, and you're coming into this, they have a solid draft, which seems right down their alley. Well, this could be a very interesting series.
Yeah, it is. It's been amazing so far, and it's only going to continue forward. Here we are for game number 4 on Battlefield of Eternity between Tempo Storm and Galeforce eSports.
Heading into the game right now, guys. So we have the lead for Tempo Storm. Let's see if Galeforce can tie it up.
Tempo Storm here in the blue. We're going to have June on his Uther. Arthas will be played by Fury. We're going to have Koth and Luck, as always, there on to the Li Ming. Psalm will be on Illidan. And last, we've got Caterpillar on Tyrael.
And to the right side of the map in red, we have Galeforce eSports with King Caffeine on Anuburak, Mike Udall on the Haka, Aka Face on Rhaegar, Fan on Greymane, and K1 Pro on Bambi.
Man, so now how does this play out for Galeforce eSports? Tempo has what I consider kind of a straightforward comp. You have the Arthas to slow things down, the Tyrael Arthas to be bullies up on the front line. Illidan comes in and looks to whittle away at the HP, and then Li Ming gets a reset. The game is pretty much over. But for Galeforce, their team fight is going to be very kite focused and then looking to get a heavy turn, I feel like, when too many resources are committed to the Lunara.
I feel, in general, long fights are definitely in favor of Galeforce, or should be, thanks to Lunara. It depends a bit on how much of an impact Illidan can have in those big battles. But for now, we have, again, that split with a 2-3 that we have been talking about on Braxis quite a bit. So, more going away from that traditional setup, I want to say, with a 4-1, where you have your solo laner up at the top.
Let's see here what Galeforce is going to be able to do with this 3-2. And, Tempo Storm, when looking at their lane pressure, it's pretty much non-existent. They don't have maybe the best of wave clear to pressure up. Tyrael can just throw out a couple spells. Same with Arthas, Uther, and Li Ming. She's awesome as long as somebody else cleared the mini wave, which, again, brought up why that is going to be a problem. So I don't mind the 3-2 here for Galeforce, where normally I question whether or not it's most optimal. Here, I can definitely see the argument for it. Yeah,
wave clear is definitely one of the things where they are struggling quite a bit compared to what Galeforce is running for now. But still, Mike Udall up at the top, hoping for a good drag. First of all, bursting away the wave in the back, and the Immortals now being announced. Psalm is the one that we really have to watch out for, and he is dropping quite low here, but he's bringing the pain at this point. You just need to be really careful. If Mike Udall connects the Tong, he is down, but he actually kills Greymane.
Yeah, he does kill Greymane. Goes into the bush to get some value out of that passive. And a member down now for Galeforce eSports, 5 more seconds, so Greymane's going to be able to join in. And this should be a moment where Tempo looks to focus on an advantage. It looks like they're concentrating through macro for now with Illidan up on top, trying to get extra soak.
That was still pretty impressive that they were able to get that kill there.
Yeah,
that's really solid.
They were trying to, you could actually see Fan's mentality with his disengage and his positioning. He was trying to hope that Cattle made the mistake of getting in front so the Flask got the value, and if it hit the backside of it, they would have been able to secure the kill. But once he moved out of Worgen form into Human and didn't land the Flask, thanks to Cattle, again, brilliant positioning, it was just unrealistic to take that trade. And then the body block dream coming out from Illidan and also Tyrael. Part of the reason why those two are so beautiful together. Their mobility on top of their late game synergy with the survivability. Once he's past the wall, he's dead.
Yeah, definitely. The Flask would have killed him too, but it's Rhaegar that confirms the kill. They had a lead in experience, and now they lost that too. Illidan dying also gives the momentum to Galeforce, and they utilize K1 Pro and his Lunara for a lot of free damage against Arthur, so that really hurts Tempo Storm's momentum for this first objective.
Another nice use of the delay there coming out from Cattle on the Tyrael. You know, oh man, drag here onto June. Pressure's being applied, but not enough damage. Caffeine goes in.
They could still get
impale?
it there.
Oh my.
Impale's back instead of trying to get the stun against Uther. I'm pretty sure they could have killed June here.
Yeah, it's possible, but now Caffeine is between a rock and a hard place. He does go down. Now Cattle somehow has kept himself alive. There's no way. Oh man, the frisbee of June.
And the double kill. He was already dead and then got the shield, and June barely heals him, and they get a double kill. This was a quick turnaround. It looked great for Galeforce after they confirmed the kill against Illidan, but now it's a complete turnaround here.
I thought for sure Cattle was, I mean, he was at like 1 HP for what feels like 45 seconds in the middle of that brawl, so great use of the defensive cross support between the composition of Tempo.
Yeah, in my head it was already the thought, let's see if we can get a counter kill
with
his explosion.
Passive,
exactly.
Yeah. I was like, we're looking for the explosion problem. Talking about explosion problem, Fan suffers from one right now, as he's just spontaneously combusting up to Tempo Storm, just rotating in, establishing dominance on their territory.
And my Goodall went in, missed the drag. At this point, this is Tempo Storm really just turning it up a bit, but I love this game so far. Both of the teams very aggressive here and just trying to push and punish the Immortal now. And so far, Tempo in particular is doing excellent here. Caffeine is still trying to prevent it, but with the poke that is coming from Corton and Sam with the continuous damage, looks very much as if Tempo Storm is going to take the game. Or at least the first Immortal here.
They've got half the Immortal. Cattle, that's his last Q. He can reactivate. Fury has a lot of pressure too. Can Galeforce actually get a pick? There's going to be the first kill. Flash thrown out by Fan. Nope, not off cooldown. So he will not have that. June retreating, you saw. If you keep in chase, all these teams always going, where's Greymane going to throw that Flash? Can't make him get that explosion damage and keeping the team up. But this is now 50% shielding onto the Immortal, but beautifully, because Tempo lost that skirmish, they aren't going to be able to push up. Galeforce goes, thanks for a free clear. Yeah,
they are able to get a bit of pressure in down to the bottom of the map, but just not nearly as enough as what they would have been able to do if not for the death of Tyrael. So, job well done by Galeforce. The order level 7 still in the hands of the blue team.
Tempo with the 4-man. Galeforce is going to try and match them, but to match a team after seeing them push for like half a second down on bottom, that's a moment where I would like to see the rotation outward. You're not, I don't know. I can see why you would argue like we need to match them here, but here is the counter argument I have. Tempo Storm's comp is good whenever the map opens. Galeforce's comp doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
So always, if you go, can we go trade for trade here, and you saw your opponent showing up on bottom, they aren't going to get that for free. Suddenly, Illidan has a lane that he is now looking to take a fight, whereas before, every part of the map looked unappealing. And that is why I kind of have concern when you match trade for trade, and you got the choice to go, do we match them, or do we push?
Yeah, the more space that Illidan has to really work with, the better for him. And that's something that we have seen on a few of the maps now already. Curse Hollow, for example, the fight at the bot lane when Illidan tried to go for the big engage, you just can't run away from him if the map is open. And that's a problem that eventually Galeforce might have to face here. For now, though, the teams are just focusing on the camps that we have. And it's all about the next Immortal phase. We're very likely that we're going to hit 10 during that phase, and especially with the Haka being in play, Galeforce is hoping to be the first one to hit the heroic abilities. But so far, Tempo Storm has taken a slight lead.
Yeah, now we kind of hit that weird limbo of Battlefield of Eternity. Teams just waiting for the objective to spawn, take their respective Shaman camps. I mean, if any team was to claim to be able to have an advantage over the timing of these camps, it would probably be Galeforce, because they not only have the global pre-10, but also because that Shaman camp is pushing into, I mean, I guess it's not even true. I was going to say a fortless lane, but both are fortless.
Yeah.
So really, both are going to be pretty easy clear. The only difference is Illidan needs 10 before he gets the hunt, and it's going to probably be stalled out long enough that that won't even be a variable at hand here.
The one thing that I really want, if there's no kill against Tempo, I think Tempo has a great position here, because they set Illidan onto the lane, he gets the 10 for his team, and once they have the hunt, that's the moment where they say, okay, we go in right now. You have going to have a tiny window, but if you have an Illidan with hunt, you can use it.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that's really cool as well that I feel like we don't highlight very often, when looking at these global compositions, you also have to consider the value of the concentrated 4 or 3. Every iteration of a 2, 3, or 4-man that Tempo runs, not counting the Illidan, is actually really insanely synergistic. Arthas, Tyrael, some of the best double frontliners in terms of survivability damage. Pair that with an Uther, backing up with a Li Ming. All of them are mobile, survivable, and have a high damage trade output. They love skirmishing, so it only makes their comp that much better.
Galeforce made a hard choice here, but they made the right choice. They moved back. They knew once that 10 hits, with Hunt, they can be forced into a fight that they would lose. So they move back, they allow the halftime show, and now with their own level 10s, they're finally willing to face the music again.
And we see Greymane, his choice was in fact going to be the Cursed Bullet there. Dahaka getting the side soak out as Galeforce has managed to thwart the efforts of Tempo Storm onto this Immortal, but only for now.
Illidan still gets the experience on the lane. Dahaka was down to the bot lane trying to do the same thing, but Illidan just waits for an opportunity to use the hunt and jump into that backline. And Galeforce has to defend. They cannot win a race here, so they need to defend around the Immortal, and at some point they need to say, okay, we'll fight right now.
K1 Pro gets one dismount, Dahaka getting the pressure out, but with, again, Psalm, he's going to transition towards bottom.
They're looking for Lunara.
Oh. Look at Psalm, you can tell he's questioning which lane do I go to here. The communication of Tempo, trying to figure out what's the macro plan. And there it is, the Arthas Illidan split I was talking about. And here, look at the 3-man. June on the Uther, Tyrael, Li Ming. It's still really impactful.
They're taking the wave up at the top. They're heading into 11 at this point. But still, no one really wants to engage here. It's all just trying to dance around the opponent and poke a bit away at the Immortal if you get an opening.
Howling Blast goes down, doesn't connect. K1 Pro rebuttals with a slow.
Nobody just wants to go straight in on it. Here comes the stun on the other hand against Tyrael, and Fury starts to move up here. They're putting a bit of a wedge between the Galeforce team.
But look at K1 Pro. He's already gotten June down to 50% HP, and it's cost him nothing. He drops another slow, gets the Splinter Spear damage onto Kothin, and suddenly Galeforce has a very optimistic approach to this fight. Cattle goes in along with Psalm. The pressure's there, but no Sanctification available. Tyrael dies before it goes off, and now Galeforce eSports is a man up.
Don't get enough value out of the explosion. Here comes the D-Shield onto Arthas. He tries to get the Immortal, sacrifices himself here, but he's not even close.
Tempo Storm. I mean, game 1 Tempo versus what we just experienced, it feels like it's different. That was the first moment where they lose that fight, and immediately they go Divine Shield, Arthas tries to all in. They're not on the same page, not nearly as crisp, even when behind, as we've seen earlier into the series. So maybe, in fact, the pressure, the mental strength that we were concerned on the side of Galeforce, we were looking at the wrong side of the table. Maybe it's Tempo.
It seems more and more like it, because now Tempo Storm lost an Immortal where they were heavily ahead since they lost Tyrael. And of course that sets you behind a bit, but as long as you keep the rest there and just dance around, you can still stall it out. We are this early in the game that the death timer would allow you to bring him back in. So right now they have to face the Immortal of Galeforce. And I'm a bit worried at this point for Tempo Storm. They just need to show again the synergy. And here comes the hunt. They're going in. The Haka is still at the top. And they get the immediate kill against Rhaegar. Well done. They want to make it a double. And Fan dies indeed. All right, there we go. That's more what we're talking about.
Yeah, that was the offense, the aggression, and also a little bit of the explanation of the composition here for Tempo Storm, why they drafted it, finally seeing it come up online and getting those 2 kills. But I like that we see the sign of life coming out from them, that they, you know, they're looking to try and get that force, but it's also one of those moments where you go, like, Galeforce, obviously once they lost the Rhaegar, they didn't want to take the trade, and then they only lost one person on top of it. The Immortal was easily able to be dealt with, which is convenient, but it's just going to be, can we see Galeforce capitalize on the 50 seconds that there's no synced? Oftentimes when you see sync drop, you want it to not just oh, we want a skirmish, or oh, we got a couple picks. It goes, oh, the whole team is dead. Like, the map is ours. What do we want after the sanctification? And Galeforce could try and get a force now.
They're lying.
They're gonna.
Yeah, they're trying to go for the fight. They know there's no sanct. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it seems they don't really want to force the fight just yet. They were hoping to catch someone alone at the camp, I suppose.
They're gonna have the confidence to bait this. Hello? Caffeine moves up. Illidan's not there yet, and he walks away. Curse bullet over the wall, just to say hello, and gotta respect the B-step out.
All right, gets the B-step. And I mean, one of the disadvantages that Tempo Storm has with the timing on the camp is that it's not synced up with the Immortal. So it's easy for the Haka to clear it, and he is not going to have to sacrifice any time during the Immortal phase, which is oftentimes what you're aiming for. So Galeforce is trying to do the exact opposite and time it properly so that they get additional value out of it.
Yeah, it was a nice, cheeky move out of Galeforce, one we've seen over and over again. That's why I was so concerned that Tempo was even willing to dance around and risk that out. You know, if they end up losing that fight, they lose a lot more than just that Shaman camp there. Now we have the Immortal up here in 2 seconds. Both teams, well, mainly Galeforce, as you said. Tempo happened to get the missed time onto their Immortal, so Galeforce will leave that up on top. Eventually, Illidan's going to have to respawn. But with safe spawning of the Immortals, both teams are just looking to get a trade.
Holy moly, that damage output on the side of Galeforce is crazy. Having the Lightning Bond, Greymane, and then also Lunara just chunking away at the Immortal, they ended that fight or that race so much later, and they still were able to nearly meet it.
Yeah, it's just, you know, we talk about the races and concern of going blow for blow, but rarely do we actually put focus into, by being able to have a better race, it allows you to get more side soak. It makes you to be more forgiving on every rotation you make. You don't have to predict your opponents, you suddenly can respond and then look to accelerate with your compositional strengths. K1 Pro, though, has been so annoying for Tempo to deal with. I feel like every single fight he's been able to get onto that Lunara, move up, get some auto attack. Look, he's even flanking right now.
I also love how Arcaface keeps himself so far back because he knows if he shows, he's going to be the hunt target within seconds. He's the only one, he can't cleanse himself, he can't use Ancestral on himself. He's the weakest link, so he is so far behind that he always just makes sure that he's outside of the vision range. Yeah,
it's actually really interesting too, because there's a weird counter argument you can make onto Rhaegar specifically on should he stay in Ghost Wolf form here, or should he actually go back to human? Because if you go into Ghost and then you get stunned out, you're immediately going to want to heal to stay alive. But if you go there, then you have a 4-second cooldown and you go back into Wolf form. So do you stay out of it, stay back, get the heal immediately after, and then Ghost Wolf on out? That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, well, for now, it looks like finally Tempo Storm is starting to force the engage here, or at least it looked for a second. They're still poking with that Li-Ming, and they are moving up a little bit further now. But we are actually entering an area where the teams could hit level 16 during that Immortal phase, and that's what Arthas and Illidan are desperately attempting to do.
Greymane is looking to be able to mirror the Illidan. Tahaka going out for its side soak. So both teams, you can see, being very concerned on when that 16 mark is going to be approached. But Tempo's creeping in slowly but surely over that of Galeforce. It's just, can Tempo force if they do hit that window? Can they force hard enough and effectively enough like we saw up on bot lane? Or do they dance around and allow Galeforce to get the rebuttal and experience?
Well, Tempo is close, but that Immortal is falling. One more wave for Illidan, and they are waiting. They're looking to see if they find that hunt target, if they can move in. And the Haka is making his way out to the top now to soak the experience. It's so close to 16, and both of the teams are really low on the Immortal health.
So Galeforce rotated out and stopped soaking, but then moved up to the Immortal and didn't all in. So now they have to deal with this 16. What does Tempo do with it, though? Do they push in? They're already slow. The fact that they're this slow makes me very concerned. Galeforce realize it.
They go back into, again, the Rhaegar trying to isolate him here. And at the same time, June is attempting to keep Cawthon alive, who's harassed by Lunara.
Look at K1. He's on his own island, and he just bodied every member of Tempo Storm. He was flat out 1 versus 4, and he's going to hop and gallop his way on out. Sanct is dropped, but it doesn't matter. That is Cawthon Luck already dead. Ancestral does connect, and now Fan and the members of Galeforce eSports should have a successful fight, but look at
Storm is taking down Rhaegar. Illidan is completely online right now, but once again, K1 Pro with the attempted kill. Cattle with a great move, moving back and actually getting here, jumping to the sword, using Eldruin's Might to just barely get out of Lunara. That was insane.
I don't honestly have words for how Galeforce has been able to approach these fights. The fact that not only did it look like 1 versus 3, we saw K1 Pro trading up on people, then we saw him being able to come back. He was like, I got enough health, I'll deal with the Tyrael, put that pressure out. And yeah, Tempo Storm, you know, they were able to use the teamwork, keep each other alive. I'm still awestruck by the performance there of K1 Pro.
And they are going for the camp in the meantime. 16 versus 16, and that Immortal has been on the map for how long?
It's been a bit.
It's been a while, yeah. So right now, Tempo Storm still with that side soak. They have, of course, the Hunt ready on Illidan. Again, the only ult that's missing, or the only two, are Arthur's. 2 tanks, Arthur's and Tyrael. They're the only ones who are still on cooldown.
Yeah, and it's mainly the Sanctification is going to be a heavy fear, especially with that poison damage coming out from Lunara. The Shaman camp pressuring up on top. Illidan has now shown he's going to put focus on to getting rid of it. That's when Galeforce, you would expect to move up, but they've got the Haka with their side soak. Howling Blast, but a cleanse from Haka allows K1 Pro to live another day.
Yeah, Lunara was getting really close there. Of course, attempting to get that final pressure in, but Tempo Storm at some point just has to decide to go for it right now. They can still deal with the defense of one Immortal, but this is getting extremely close, and they are moving in. They're immediately trying to take it, but once again, K1 Pro moving out here. Target shifting there, attempting to focus on the Haka, but Mike Udall bursts through, and now Galeforce is starting to push in hard.
But look at K1 Pro separates. Psalm moves up. There goes the cocoon there from Karthik. And look at this. Psalm is going to try and deal with K1 Pro. Will he be able to stay alive? It's the D shield, and he gets the outplay. That is going to be the pick there. I mean, it's a little bit cheating. You got a D shield, but now Galeforce has got to retreat here. They get the Immortal, but do they lose members?
Ideally on the side for Tempo Storm, they have to get another kill. Lunara taking her down is great, but they need to make a little bit more happen than only that. And they're trying to, but that's the killability. And Greymane falling as well. The fight not over, but look how long Tempo Storm is.
But see, if Psalm survives, Tempo wins this fight. But when Psalm dies, he's the only one that can actually win that trade. So suddenly, getting that overextension fan, getting that pick, now what was a, watch Illidan clean house goes, Tempo Storm, you're in a bad position.
Well, they will be able to defend here just because they have a 3 versus 3 going, and they still have the damage output thanks to Li Ming. But still, they will save the keep. There's not going to be a keep that falls, and that's the biggest part of this.
Yeah, keeps you suddenly become so concerning on a map like Battlefield of Eternity, having to draw a resource back. Conveniently, both of these teams do have a global, so it won't be as devastating as they would be if a 1 was to be able to pick it up and have that upper hand. But a key front wall has been obtained. Galeforce, for first time in a long while, feels like they have the experience advantage. It's only minor.
It's still incredibly even though. 9 kills against 7, both of the teams on level 18. And it's all really just about how Illidan and also Lunara. It feels like it's Illidan and Lunara that we're watching for the most. Fan is doing a great job on his Greymane too and really pressuring them. But in the end, it's always about K1 Pro dancing around with Lunara, poking away. And the moment that Psalm really engages with his Illidan starts, okay, we're going to take the fight now.
Wow, that curse bullet there. He got the poke out, but members of Galeforce are not close enough. So, when we've looked at the last couple initiations for Tempo, the last 3 have not worked out. Initiations 1 and 2 were on to a Rhaegar who was very far away from everybody else, and then that was when we saw K1 Pro kind of dance around and skirmish it out. We've seen another one where they've attempted to go on to K1 Pro, and then the last one where they go for Mike Udall and the Haka. I don't know if Tempo is going to be able to learn how to adjust midway through this game to make sure that they win these next fights, because Aka and K1 Pro are now being smart enough with their positioning that Illidan hunts are actually getting him too far out. And now when you go to the Haka, I mean, you saw what happened there. He suddenly was able to rebuttal by the momentum, by the time.
Another target would be Greymane for them, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's definitely a better target than jumping onto the Haka.
I agree. I think that Lunara will be a little bit too far out in the leaping strike, but Greymane just dies. You know, he is a little bit beefier than the Lunara when looking at the actual numbers and also the Worgen defenses that you can spec into or just naturally get as a character. But he's the one up in the front thinking that he's going to be able to survive. So maybe Tempo needs to switch the focus, but no matter what, they have to be crisp with their initiations and make sure that Galeforce is not ready for it.
Level 20 talents are also going to play a massive role, especially with the new Borak having the rewind on 20. So we are heading into the Storm talents at this point, or this is This is going to be the fight that really matters, because this is very likely to be a game changer, or ending the game, unless you're really trading quite evenly during the fight, because that Immortal is going to hurt hard.
Tempo Storm, small advantage in the fact that Illidan might be able to apply free pressure up onto the fort, whereas pressuring towards the keep is a bit risky when looking for any experience you can possibly get on Battlefield of Eternity, creeping towards those 20s. But the defense is strong here for Galeforce. K1 goes out and he looks for some poke.
Yeah, he doesn't get it with the cocktail, and Illidan is going for the next wave here, and this should be the last.
Galeforce, they've got their 20. Tempo, they've got theirs.
Both of them. All right, this is it at this point. We have the rewind already taken, and they are already starting to engage here. Cattle goes in with the holy ground, trying to cut off King Caffeine.
But Dahaka didn't even hesitate. He didn't even look towards the fight. He was like, nope, I have confidence in the team. They're going to stay alive. And he can walk his way back. He still has his passive to be able to use that if needed. Caffeine doing a good job wearing the damage, but look at Udal. He goes out, he goes for Cawthon. Nice teleport out. Drag is going to be dodged.
Doesn't get him, not even close. Nice play by Li Ming here, making sure that paying attention to what's happening. Illidan still out pushing the bot lane. And this is just that dance that we've seen. Nice damage against King Caffeine. Good hits on the side of Cawthon.
Look at Mike back in the same scrub there. Howling Blast thrown out. Does he move up? No. Patience shown here. Creepy.
A lot of it as well. Just changing positions here, waiting a little bit.
See, the reason he moves down there is because his team is providing vision now, and he realizes he can just wait. And if anybody wants to check that shrub, they won't think he's there. But he goes and retreats towards bottom. Illidan is picking up the Khazra camp down below. Dahaka sniffs it out. They now both know that both of the globals are separated.
And
he goes in.
Goes in with a hunt, tries to go in for the kill, doesn't get it. A bit of damage against Fan, and that's about it. Dahaka moves in as well. They go for Arthas. The bullet is out, and once again, Illidan goes in.
Yeah, and look at Fan choked off there by the Holy Ground. Sanctification is down. Another Holy Ground coming out from Cattle. Mike Udal is stuck in a terrible position, but the blast damage coming out from Pan. The cocoon is there, immediately removed, and now Tempo is looking for a bit more. K1 Pro, though, you see the damage. They're respecting it this time. They get one pick. Tempo looks to reestablish themselves, but how much damage are they going to lose because of that?
I mean, it could be the halftime show, but after that, they really need to force the issue. It was a great kill against Dahaka, mostly because Tyrael had such a great holy ground on the move. But still, at this point, they need to go deep, and that's exactly what they do. Psalm needs to be a bit careful. They're jumping in once again, and Tyrael again with the shields. But Fan is moving out and actually survives. They have 27 seconds where they need to get that Immortal. This is Tempo Storm's window.
And it's so close. That's the worst spawn that it could possibly be, that it's this easy, this close to a well. Something to be able to defend for Galeforce. But Tempo's doing a good job. It is already dropped here, down to 15,000 health. Look at the flash damage coming out from Fan. The members are low. Cleanse is going to be used. Fan stays alive. Fury, K1 Pro leaping and bounds over Tempo Storm, but they are not getting a kill yet. Tempo's so low.
June is so low already. Greymane
Look at K1.
First, though. The Divine Shield comes out. K1 Pro drops Cawthon. Immortal is still alive, and that's the end of Illidan. Illidan is down, and K1 Pro chases them down one after another. Uther with the redemption comes back. If Mike Udal hits the tongue, they might get the kill here, but it's still a 2-for-1 trade. And Cattle is also dying. Oh my god. Galeforce.
Tempo Storm gave up the secondary half, or not the first half of the halftime show. They got a pick, and they said, okay, we're going to recollect, we're going to reinitiate, and that is where we're going to win. We don't care about the lack of shielding that we lost. But that also put them in a position where Galeforce got to force their hand, force the time window, and when Tempo initiated and wasn't clean with their initiation, again, Galeforce just turns an entire fight, even if it's 5 versus 4.
The damage output that we're seeing on K1 Pro alone is insane. He's at this time at 86,000 damage, and Cawthon on the side of Tempo Storm has 55k on his Li Ming. That's a 30,000 gap in damage points. That is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even Fan is sitting between his impactful flash. Like, he's already 20,000 above Li Ming as well.
Yeah.
Both members, both damage dealers on Galeforce are 20k above the highest of Tempo.
K1 has played absolutely amazing here, and that he is able to deal with the Illidan to that extent is just unbelievable. 11 kills on both sides with 27 minutes in. And that Immortal is nearly one-shotting towers already. This is a disaster for Tempo Storm, and they're going to be desperate to try and defend this, but it's going to be rough. Illidan into the back, onto Akaface, trying to take him down. Udal missing the tongue. Cattle is low. Arthur's dead, and this could be the end.
Holy Ground is going to be able to split and buy a bit of time, but if Psalm goes down, it is going to be it. Another great blast. Sanctification just stalling out what is inevitable. K1 Pro dancing, prancing, flashy play. Nice heal coming out from Aka to keep him up. And Fan is just bored of Tempo Storm, removes them of this world, and now is going to be able to tie this series 2-2.
K1 Pro just absolutely amazing. He is currently looking at nearly 100,000 hero damage. Insane turnaround by Galeforce. And it's a 2-2 at this point. It goes down to the last map. We actually could have the reverse sweep here.
You said it. You said the word.
I know.
I didn't believe it, but it may, in fact, actually be a thing. And Kaldor, I want to get across how actually important that is if whoever wins this, especially if Galeforce wins it, because you got to remember how Mike Udall, he said we have a front-loaded schedule because they've already taken Roll 20 and they've already got a win over that. If they play how they played in the past and fall roughly in the same place in standings, if they take out Tempo here, that almost 100%, as long as no crazy upset happens, secures them a spot at the Western Clash.
Yeah.
Just by taking out number 2 and 3 right behind them. That means that this sets them up so beautifully, and that hurts Tempo. Suddenly, Tempo has to second-guess their international performance, and if they can even qualify, if they struggle here against Galeforce.
And now think about Brexit.
I mean,
that could have been a 3-1.
Yeah, it very much could have. Either way, we have game number 5. Not yet, though. You guys got to stick with us here. We're going to throw it to a break, and we will be back with game number 5 in just a second, so stick with us.